Live from Jacksonville, Florida, the Four Verticals podcast is about to start now.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Four Verticals podcast episode 100. We made it. 100 episodes in. We made it. This is pretty insane that we have come this far. Now we're at 100 episodes. So thank you so much for all of you who are joining in. The pre-show, if you will. We're going to start here in about 3 minutes or so at the top of the hour. I know the stream said 1 o'clock, but or like 1:10 or whatever. But, yeah, we'll get started here in about 3 minutes. I wanted to do the show a little bit earlier today when I was as soon after the College Football 25 trailer came out. But just some things happened to where I wasn't able to get the stream going just yet. But here we are. Of course, we're doing the show a bit earlier today than we usually do, around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock Eastern. Because, of course, still being in Florida, you do have afternoon thunderstorms. So, and a lot of you guys, hearing thunder in the background and stuff, as we had storms yesterday around that time, I figured we'll just do the show a little bit earlier today. So, yeah, we have a big show for you guys today. A lot of things to talk about. Of course, in about 2 minutes, we'll get officially started. That's when the Spotify folks will come in. We'll do an introduction again. Of course, if you're new here, welcome in. Make sure you subscribe, like the stream. Of course, this is our 100th episode special, if you will. A lot of things to talk about. College Football 26 reaction, trailer reaction, record projection series continues with Miami. Some Fantastic Four news. There was a screening yesterday, public screening. Some concern there, and some Q&A, and that'll be for the show. Now, to be clear, next week's schedule is a bit weird, so we will not have 2 shows next week. We'll have one that I am going to pre-record today after this show, so I will sort of remind you guys when I do that. So that will premiere sometime either Tuesday or Thursday. I guess I'll decide when that will get put out, but I will be doing one show next week. That'll be pre-recorded. So no 2 shows next week. Be 1 show. Because of some issues of scheduling. So yeah, we're not going anywhere. The show's not going anywhere after 100 episodes. Not like we're ending it now or anything. But yeah, next week's schedule is a little bit weird. So we'll be having 1 show next week. It'll be premiering. Will not be a live show. It'll be pre-recorded, and I will get it out to you guys sometime next week. So in about a minute or so, we'll get started. Of course, welcome in to 3 of you. Well, technically 2 of them is actually me because I'm watching it. Well, one of them is me because I'm watching it here on my laptop here. But I think one of you is someone else. So again, if you are new here, again, make sure you subscribe and do all the things, I guess. And we'll go over this again here in just a second, but we'll get started here any moment now. Hopefully you guys do enjoy this. If you have the time to taking time out of your day to go watch this show is pretty important to us. And we're still growing and everything. And of course, our proper anniversary will be about a month or so. And it is now 1 o'clock Eastern time, 12 noon. So in 3, 2, 1, we'll be get started here. So in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Four Verticals podcast episode 100. We made it. For those on YouTube, that's the second time I've done that because we're doing this for the Spotify folks. But welcome to the show. 100 episodes. Here we are. 100 episodes. We are. I just still can't believe we're actually here. We made it to 100 episodes. Never thought when I started this back last summer that we would be here. And look, we're not getting the best views. We're not, we don't have like 1 million subscribers or anything like that. But as long as we continue to do this show, as long as you guys continue to, subscribe and watch the streams and whatnot, we'll be here. Doesn't matter how much longer it is to take for us to get more subscribers. We'll be there. Again, welcome in. If you are new here, if you happen to join us on our 100th episode special, 2 things I want you guys to do, or a couple things. 1, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's very important. Make sure you do that. And also, make sure to like the streams and like the videos. It's very important. We don't typically do a whole lot of individual videos anymore. because it's only just me. I literally, if you're new here, I basically wear all the hats. I'm the show producer, host, my own HR person, editor. We do everything, and that's a lot of things to keep up with. But just make sure you like those video streams. Follow us on Twitter as well, and same for the podcast feed. Make sure you subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review. We would like to get more of those as we can. But yeah, we have a big show for you guys today. A lot of things to talk about. College Bowl 25 trailer was released. Several game times were announced for week 1. We'll react to those accordingly. Team record projection series continues with Miami and the Hurricanes. We're Cristobal and Company up next on that series, and wrap up the show with some concerning Fantastic Four news. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit concerned now, and Q&A. Now, as I mentioned for the folks on YouTube, this is, I guess, I've been repeating myself, but for those of you on Spotify, we will not have 2 shows next week. We'll have a show, but it'll be pre-recorded. I'll do that after this show, and that'll be released sometime next week. So, because the schedule next week, we're only doing 1 show. After that, I think we should be back to 2 shows, but I'll let you guys know what the plan is going forward, because there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I'll let you guys know eventually that may or may not move the schedule around for our show. We're not going anywhere, just because we're at 100 episodes doesn't mean that we're, getting rid of the show or anything, that we're stopping. But no, we'll still be around, but we're just taking a break next week is all I'm kind of saying a little bit, but we'll have a show for you. So let's go ahead and get into this. So EA Sports College Bowl 25 came out last year. Great game, I think. Flawed as it is, and there's a lot of things I wish they would have done better, and there's a lot of things I wish they would have, improved on, before the game came out. But that's okay. The devs over there, Scott O'Gallagher, those guys, I'm not friends with them. I've never been to EA. I'm not a sponsor of them. I've not been invited to go down and play the game, even though I live in Florida. They're in Orlando, of course. So I'm not partners with them, but they do a pretty good job. They communicate well with the community, and they did eventually over the past. I think they clearly stopped doing these, and now the new game's coming out now. It's irrelevant, but up until just recently, they did a pretty good job of updating the game, keeping it clean until the new game comes out, especially after the season was over, of doing several updates throughout, every month. So they did a pretty good job of improving the game as much as they could while working on the new one, and I'll give them props for doing that. But the trailer, well, we got the cover on Tuesday. I discussed that. The trailer, of course, came out today, and I will say this: as much as I love College Bowl 25. I like it. It's a good game, flawed as it is. As a big fan of the series, of course, the last game that came out before last year was NCAA 14, and I still love that game. It's still close to my heart, and I still have a lot of memories and nostalgia for that game. But I will say this, just up front, this might be the best College Bowl video game we've ever had. Visually, of course, it's going to look the same, and that's obvious, right? It's not going to change that much from the first game, or the first of the new games, to the second of the new games, or at least the new version. It's not going to change that much. We're not going to have, like, mammoth changes in, the way the game looks or anything. It's just not, this is not going to be the way it is. And I would imagine it will probably, at least the way the game looks, visually will not change that much. And I totally intend that to be the case. But from what I have seen, based on the trailer today that got released, of course, it was revealed weeks ago, the Metallica partnership that was hinting at, the Enter Sandman being in the game, which is famous for being at Virginia Tech when they walk out. That song, of course, being played throughout the trailer, not surprised. But what really grabbed my attention here is I checked my phone, make sure there's no new information. Okay, we're good on that. I'm really surprised about the game was, number one, it looked visually great again, as it did. The thing that really got me, and what really gave me chills watching it at first, that last year's game did not, at least the trailer last year didn't give me, was they are really putting an emphasis on stadium atmosphere. And one of the things that I'm not over the moon about College Bowl 25, and this was the same thing with the older games too. I mean, granted, NCAA 14 was like 10 years ago. The stadium atmospheres were not the best. They were just kind of there, right? The main reason why you play NCAA 14 and the older games was just that, it's college football. It's a little bit different. The gameplay mechanics are a little different than Madden, than NFL. It's a little bit faster. You have more variety and stuff like that. But the stadium atmospheres, to me, were just not the best. They were good, granted. I mean, look, they weren't garbage or anything. No offense to EA, but they were not the best. And I think last year was a step forward, but still felt like NCAA 14-ish, kind of lifeless at times. And I will say that the crowd noise was good, the atmosphere, with the music and different things like that. It was improvement, but not what it could be. So far from that trailer, holy crap. It looks amazing. The stadium atmosphere looks great. The LED lights, like they showed like Auburn, Tennessee, which those photos got leaked yesterday or the day before, but like the lights flickering and stuff like that. And the lights show that a lot of these teams do now during the primetime games. You have the drones now being featured that do like that shape the team logo. That stuff which looks amazing. Like almost looks too much like real life, especially now with the animation, the CGI getting a lot better. The coaches being in the game. Now I know a lot of folks have questioned the character models like Ryan Day and James Franklin and Steve Sarkisian. Look, they're not like EA is not ILM. They're not Weta. They're not these big production companies, and they're not like movie level quality. That's not what you're going to get. But for a video game, and them not being on the same level as like a Rockstar for GTA, that's pretty good. I must be in the minority here. I don't think it looks that bad. I know, yes, it could be better. Yes, could James Franklin look a little bit better? Could Steve Sarkisian, could his character model look a lot better? And look, there's enough time for them to improve it. It's probably what we saw today was definitely a early build. But those look great. The coaches are in the game. High school officially, well, we got to see what it looks like. Very much so like NCAA 14. It looks like it's not a real school, but definitely custom schools. Now, a lot of the information that we did get came in the EA Sports campus. What is it? The campus huddle or whatever. It's like their blog or whatever. Basically their press release, if you will. It's just a big old news dump. All the info you could want, albeit it's not specifically because they will be doing like they did last year, individual videos and blog posts, news releases of the individual game modes and like gameplay and Dynasty and Road to Glory, things like that. So they will eventually do those. I think I'm assuming they'll probably start next week, right? I'm assuming. So I would imagine gameplay in the next couple of weeks and the Dynasty and whatnot. But a lot of interesting changes. Again, you have coaches, over 300 coaches, and college football, and that means we're going to get both coaches and I guess coordinators too. How about that? I never thought we would get that, but I'm assuming that EA is going that step forward. And I'm assuming we're not going to get like the ultra realistic, face scans for the both coaches and coordinators. I'm assuming it'll be just the coaches, and the coordinators are probably, you won't see them. They'll just have, much like in Madden, just your profile picture and that's it. So I'm assuming you won't see them on the field with the coaches, but at least it will be in the game. At least you can actually see them and stuff like that in the game. So that's pretty cool. And of course, you can still do your custom coaches and stuff like that. Of course, they mentioned Team Builder. Hopefully, they fix some stuff. And then again, I thought Team Builder, to a certain extent, for not having the game for 10 years, was good, though there was some issues with the website of being kind of slow and, the I don't know what you call it. I guess like the user interface. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, user interface wasn't the best. It was, the site crashed a lot. Very slow to use. Good, though, when you can use it, but, for example, not the expert, the guy who does the UGF Panda stuff, he took him forever to get that video out with his Team Builder team. And look, I don't blame him. That site at the beginning of the game, well, bad, but it's gotten better. But just so many things to talk about. Of course, they will do their eventual deep dive into all these individual stuff. We will react to that accordingly when we can. But just from face value, you guys nailed it. And I think one of the things I really wanted them to nail, again, was the college atmosphere and the game day atmosphere. Like, what's it like? The game should make you feel like you're actually at the game. And again, I think last year was a step forward. This year is a massive jump. It's night and day, right? You get like the Clemson players riding the bus and in full uniform, and they run down the hill and stuff like that. And again, just already from this trend, again, I know it's a cinematic. A lot of that stuff won't be in the game necessarily, just the way it's presented, but it actually feels like college football, and it's a massive improvement even from last year. And I thought last year was a massive improvement from 14. So again, hats off to EA. Scott O'Gallagher, those guys who work over there. I don't know all of the names. I know him because he's pretty vocal on Twitter, at least with a lot of the fans. So credit to you guys. Again, look, I'm not a sponsor of EA. I didn't go out to their little photo shoot in the Rose Bowl. I didn't go out there like Bordeaux and like MMG did. But no, hats off to you guys. And I think you guys are doing a good job over there. I think it's pretty clear. Like in the words of Josh Pate from last year, they're taking care of us, college football fans. I think they're doing that. And well, they did it last year, and they're doing it this year. And it looks like this year's game, at least from the outside of things, will be a massive improvement. I'm trying to think, what else have they revealed? It wasn't very much. It was pretty much just a preview of what you will eventually, what they'll eventually reveal to you in the coming weeks and months. But of course, the game is coming out a little bit earlier, so I'd imagine, again, those deep dive like videos, I'd imagine those will probably come out maybe next week, the week after. So it'll be probably pretty soon, I would imagine. But yeah, hats off to EA. Great trailer. Again, having Metallica being a sponsor. And by the way, a couple other things they mentioned that I guess I just forgot here as we kind of close this out is number one, the drums that you would hear in the menus, those are going away. It'll be sort of like the old games. You'll have the fight songs rotating and some generic band music. So thank you. Also, one thing I did want to mention too, I did like the stadium pulse from last year. It's good, right? You know, when the camera's shaking, things like that, and it gets really loud, definitely makes it pretty challenging. But one thing I noticed, and especially in Dynasty, once you get, you know, as your coach levels up and things like that, in Dynasty mode, especially if you're like me and you start winning a lot of national championships, start building your team after a couple of years, the stadium pulse is not a big factor later on. Again, I get it, right? As your coach levels up, you know, you will, you know, it won't be that much of a factor for you because you're becoming a legend, right? But I noticed it's a little bit too underpowered, and I want, because they did mention in their campus huddle blog post that they did retool the crowd noise stuff, the stadium pulse, and they're making it even more. They're sort of plussing it, if you would, or making it even more challenging. So now my fear is they don't overdo it and it's too hard. But hopefully there is more of an oomph to it. Like it's a little bit more harder instead of, you know, in last year's, in the current game we have now that it's available to us right now, that the stadium pulse does have a tendency, at least the factor of it decreases as you go on. So hopefully that's, they make it more challenging. Not too challenging, but just make it sort of edge it up a little bit, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, again, hats off to EA. Again, I thought the trailer was great. It certainly does. Can reaffirm that these guys care about college football, right? And that was the fear going back to many years ago when the game was announced to come back. That people were worried, oh no, it's just gonna be the Madden guys working on it, and they don't give a crap about college football. These guys here, like Scott O'Gallagher and those guys in love over guys you don't know the names of, they care about college football. They clearly do care. And I think this trailer, once again, in last year's game, reaffirms they do care. Like, dude, they actually give a fuck about college football, which is good. And which is, I really hope that that does continue. Those guys continue to make a good product. I think it's quite good. And I think this year's game and the years to come, I think is going to be the best college football video games you could ever imagine. So I'll just leave it at that. And as we do that, I'm going to get some water. He's been talking, well, at least on YouTube here, been talking for over 20 minutes already. Me gushing over the game, but there's so much to talk about, right? This is a big news day. But I'm going to consume water, and we will continue on with the other topics we have. Okay, so a couple weeks ago, we had of course, the big fiasco surrounding Fox's Big Noon Kickoff and whatnot, and everyone was, because the rumors are coming out that yes, that Ohio State game and Ohio State Texas game, while not officially on Big Noon Kickoff, it was announced to be on Fox. Times weren't announced yet. Of course, we had like the lawsuit thing, and apparently, you know, there was some hope that the game would move to prime time. It's not going to happen. It's been announced officially that it's going to be Big Noon Kickoff. Ugh. Look, I have nothing against Joel Klatt. I have nothing against Gus Johnson. I have nothing against folks over at Fox Sports. I think we have to acknowledge again that this is a problem that your premier game, 1 versus 2 more than likely in the AP and the coaches poll when it comes out week 1. First time it's ever happened, ever having a 1 versus 2 match. I think the only time that we came close to was what, like 2017 Florida State Bama, I believe. But like I said a couple weeks ago, while I understand why Fox wants to have games on at noon, it's, you know, it creates separation. It doesn't, you know, run in with other networks like ESPN, ABC, and CBS for having their games. I get that. They want to have it be sort of a standalone game, but it's like the fact that Ohio State, again, it's not Ohio State's fault that they're good. It's just unfortunately with Fox, they, of course, the way the contracts work, the TV deals, they get first dibs. And unfortunately, again, with their emphasis on noon, their lead game, their big game, the game that they want to circle as the game of the week, it must be at noon. It cannot be at 8 o'clock or whatever, unless if they're doing a game on the West Coast. In that case, you can't do a game at 9 o'clock on the West Coast. That can't happen. I think that's also in the rules too. And that's the only time when, unfortunately, Ohio State, like teams like that, Michigan and Penn State can have their big games at night because they're on the West Coast, right? And Fox would much rather have a game at noon. So, look, it sucks. I don't like it. I think a lot of folks, even the not just defenders of Big Noon, are even starting to understand, this is getting a little bit out of control now. I mean, hell, Ohio State has been on there like, freaking 100 times now or 200 times in the past 5 years. And look, again, it's not their fault that they're good. It's just Fox. They want to put the best product out there, and unfortunately, they are the cream of their crop. And it's not just them. It's, Penn State, Michigan. And again, unless they go out to the West Coast, that's only the real time they could be on their the big game that week in the Big Ten and be on a primetime. Like, for example, last year, Ohio State, Oregon. That was a West Coast game. And that was, in Columbus, that would have been Big Noon kickoff game. But it wasn't, thankfully, for you folks there in Columbus. But unfortunately, had to be the expense of Oregon to having that game in Eugene and not in Columbus. So I get it. It sucks. But there's nothing I can do about it. No lawyer, no legally can do it. It's ironclad. It's not going to change at least for the foreseeable future. So that game was officially announced. Auburn-Baylor, which was moved from Saturday to Friday, is officially now Fox's standalone game on a Friday night. So it'll probably be I'd imagine Tim Brando and I think whoever the other color guy is. I believe it's Devin Garner. I believe. I don't remember, but yeah, it's going to be his crew more than likely, and it's the standalone game on Fox on Friday night. Which, by the way, Auburn doesn't normally go on Fox that much. I believe this is the first time in like 20 years they've been on Fox. I think the last time was during the BCS era, I believe, when the BCS had control over the New Year's Six at the time. So pretty rare for Auburn to be on Fox, and that happened. And here's another conundrum too. So because this whole Big Ten situation with Big Noon, since that game is exclusively the best game is exclusively tied to Fox and Noon. For games, west of the mid or at least east of the Rockies, CBS is once again having a shitty game on their time slot, and it's unfortunately it's going to be Penn State versus Nevada. Now it's a lot better than Ohio State versus Akron, but still, it's like I feel so bad for those folks at CBS. It's like the week one game from now on going forward, unless there's like multiple big games, and then in the Big Ten week one, that they're just going to have to deal with this. There's no way around it, man. It sucks. Really does suck for them. That last year, now this year, to having to put on some Big Ten school versus some crappy G5 team. Look, nothing against Nevada. I know they improved a lot last year, and they showed some fight after what happened the year before. But still, that's not like I put that on CBS. I'll be honest, it's kind of embarrassing. It really is. And some other times got announced too that were confirmed. Like for example, Clemson LSU is going to be the big ABC primetime game, which is rare because it's mainly SEC now. And I believe, what was it? I believe it's week 3, I believe. Yeah, that's when Tennessee goes to Georgia, or Tennessee hosts Georgia. That will be ABC, SEC, Saturday Night Football. I believe Michigan, Oklahoma, week 3. I believe I have to memorize these a bit more as we get closer. But I believe the week of OU, Michigan, that's also Saturday Night Football, SEC on ABC. Bama, Wisconsin, I believe is going to be on either ESPN or ABC. Probably the ABC because, again, the SEC thing, they really want to milk that, which is, look, I totally get that. But, have especially bigger problems with this Big Ten thing. This is getting ridiculous now. This is like 3 years in a row where you've had the Big Noon situation. Now you're having the CBS drawing week 1 all these shitty G5 games, and which is I don't understand why. I get it. Got to fill airspace. It's content for them, but just like, could we not do this? Could we not have, one of the things I do like about the NFL that I do like is that, well, they do have strict rules about, their TV deals and whatnot and how it is. One of the things I don't like is that everything's regionalized unless you have Sunday Ticket. But what I do like is that it's not necessarily ironclad. You can have games move around. Like, for example, you can have games flex to Sunday Night Football and those vice versa. That game gets flexed out. I do like that about the NFL, and I wish college football at least would do that, given how much the fans do care and how much there has been a lot of controversy surrounding this Ohio State-Texas thing. But I digress. Nothing we can do about it. Nothing politicians can do or legalese or anything like that. It's ironclad. There's nothing we can do about it. I get that, unless Fox decides to change it themselves. But it sucks, and we'll continue to bat for it. I know some other folks like Josh Pate, he's sort of circled around onto it. He's starting to like it. So it's not just me saying it either. I think a lot of folks on the internet would 1,000% agree on that. So, yeah. I'll drink some more water here, and we'll move on to our team projection series. We'll continue with Miami. Again, as we sort of roll along here, again, make sure, since again this is episode 100, I make sure to remind you guys this: subscribe on YouTube, podcast feed, follow me on Twitter. That's all I'm asking, and we do have a lot of fun over there, a lot of interactions and stuff with you guys, and I'm actually checking Twitter right now just to make sure nothing else has popped up in the last few moments or so, because it seems like there's a lot of interesting, but yeah. Actually, I'll actually bring this up here. Okay. All right. 2025 Team Record Projection Series continues. We've been doing this for the past month or so, if you're new here. If you want to learn more about the other teams we've already done, just go back into the playlist. I think you can sort through the videos. And, of course, again, unfortunately, we don't have an editor where they can, individualize the videos for you. There's really not time to do that, at least at the moment, but they're there. So up next, if you've been watching, if you've been following along with us, we've done a whole number of teams, an accoutrement of teams. And up next is, went from, I believe it was the Big Ten, we went to the SEC, now we're going to the ACC. That being Miami. Last year, of course, Cam Ward comes in, a lot of hype, a lot of excitement, a lot of anxiety, of course, the nervousness about, will this work or not? It worked for the first several weeks, and the Georgia Tech game happened. Well, before that was Virginia Tech, and then I believe before that was the Louisville game. So you started to see the kinks in the armor, right? Especially on defense. They failed to Georgia Tech, failed to Syracuse on the road, and they lost the freaking Pop-Tart Bowl game, which that's a lot of a conversation about Cam Ward sitting down to a lot of folks who I know disagree with me on that, but whatever. So last year, sort of like i.e. Jaden Daniels at LSU 2022, sort of wasting him a little bit, or 2023, which year won the Heisman? Yeah, it was 2023. So yeah, circa sort of like LSU 2023 of Jaden Daniels. You could make the argument that Cam Ward got wasted at Miami, and I think he did. Of course, they fired Lance Guidry to bring in the guy from Minnesota, I believe, DC. Shannon Dawson's still there. Carson Beck comes in. A lot of the guys they've recruited are still around. A lot of them are a couple years older now. Mario's done a really good job in recruiting. Yes, have the on-field results not been good enough? I agree with that. They've not been good enough, or at least to the standard you want them to be at. But they are getting better. So what does LSU or what does Miami look like this year? Actually, I forgot to add this in, the FanDuel number here for them. So stand by as I do that. I should have done this a little bit earlier. Let's see, what's their number? Okay, stand by just a second here. Okay, so according to FanDuel, as I just looked on here, their over win total is 8.5. So that kind of gives you the gauge where they feel Miami's going to be at this year. So their schedule as it goes, it's not easy. It starts out kind of rough a little bit. Notre Dame, week 1, that's the Sunday game on ABC. So I'd imagine that's probably Kirk and Reese Davis probably. Big rivalry game, historical game. And then get your local regional FCS team. I believe it's Bethune-Cookman, which is in Daytona Beach. So that's kind of interesting. And then they get South Florida. Now, last year, that game the score didn't look close, but if I recall correctly, that was not necessarily a blowout at the beginning. That was a very competitive game. And of course, Alex Clutch has been there for a while. Of course, he runs that sort of Baylor Bryles type style of offense, veer and shoot. Byron Brown's still there. He could have easily left in the portal. That's a very sneaky game. Much like last year, it's a very sneaky game. Don't let them creep up on you, because I know what happens. What's happening the week after, which is the Florida game. Of course, Florida will be wanting revenge on you. It's a rivalry game. 2 rivalry games in the first month of the year. And then you get Florida State. I believe it's a bye week, and then you get Florida State, Louisville on a Friday. You get one Friday game. That's against Louisville, and then it's Stanford at home. So don't have to travel out there. That's good. The furthest you have to travel west is SMU, so that's actually kind of good, at least the travel aspect of things. That's good. You get your revenge game on Syracuse, NC State, and it's on the road back-to-back, Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh. Don't like that. Warm weather team going to a cool weather environment. I know a lot of folks hate that. I'm sorry, but that is a factor. I'm just telling you, you don't want to be seeing a Miami team that, let's just, God forbid they have a bad year, and you get to the Virginia Tech Pittsburgh game, and they're, all special team players are huddled near the heaters, and everyone looks pissed off and want to be there. Everyone's mad, and it's cold out, and Pitt and Virginia Tech are having fun because they're taking advantage of you being a warm weather team not used to playing out there. I know folks laugh at that, but trust me, it's a real thing. And if you don't know if you haven't been following the sport long enough, you should know that, because, I know people will tell me, well, the NFL, something like that. Well, this isn't the NFL, it's the college football, so I don't want to hear that. So based on that schedule and based on the talent they still have, again, they bring in Carson back. They have a lot of same pieces. They've been there for a long time. Like, Ruben Bain, Francis Mainoa, a lot of key people that you've been following their recruiting for a while that you would be familiar with. Based on this schedule, how it is kind of tough, not really. It's a somewhat friendly schedule. I think the best case scenario for them is 10-2, which is quite good, and about the same as last year. And depending on what happens, that may be good enough to get you into the ACC title game. We'll see. Their worst case scenario is 6-6. Now, I should probably explain this a little bit, because I'm not the only one who came up with this theory. But one, Daniel Cannell on Cover 3 a couple weeks ago, I think they were doing, I forgot what they were doing. I don't know how this got brought up, but Miami got brought up. I think they're doing their coach rankings, I believe. I think that's what it was. But Danny brought this up. I don't know how they did it, but they brought up Miami, and they brought up, Carson Beck coming in and some of the off-the-field stuff of his girlfriend, who was one of the Carpenter twins, the basketball team. They, they split up and have, Beck's car gets stolen, and just a whole lot of drama going on. And Danny brought up look, I don't agree with everything Danny says, but I do respect him a lot, and I do agree with him on this, that there's just a lot of weirdness going on with them right now. And, unfortunately, you do have to kind of question leadership stuff of Carson. Is he a leader? Is this, whole distraction with the Carpenter twins? Is this going to be a problem? Because a lot of folks would, to varying degrees, would tell you that there may have been some distractions regarding to his girlfriend at the time. I guess I don't keep up this stuff. I'm mainly worried about the college football stuff. I'm assuming they were still broken up, but whatever. At the time when they were still dating, when he was at Georgia, that may have been a distraction, may have not. It's just, I think what Danny was bringing up is just all this distraction, all this drama, and the fact that there's no nucleus of leadership, right? With Cam Ward leaving, a lot of those older players they brought in through recruiting on the portal, they're not there anymore. And I think what Danny was bringing up is that the worry is there still that leadership nucleus there, or is this going to blow up last year like Florida State did? Not at the same degree where you go from 10-2 and go to 2-10. I'm not expecting a total reversal of the records, sort of like Florida State last year, and then you have to go all the way back to Southern Miss with Ellis Johnson when Larry Fedora was there, and they went they went like 12-2 or whatever, and then they went like 1-11, something like that, just an insane record reversal. I'm not expecting that, but if those leadership issues are still there and there's still all this distraction and drama with the Carpenter twins, I could see this blowing up. I'm serious. I am very concerned as where this could go here. Again, it's very high ceiling, very extremely low floor. And look, I respect Mario Cristobal. I assume that if those folks over there understand what's going on here, that this doesn't blow over, the drama stuff doesn't infect the team. But I'm just telling you, because that's what's been reported and what's been happening, this could be a problem. I agree with Yanni. This could be an issue where they could be a little bit worse than people think they might be. Now, my most reasonable case is 8-4. So I'm not going the full doomsday scenario, drama-filled, controversy, stuff like that going off the field with Carson Beck and the team's a whole mess. I'm not going that far, but unfortunately, it's on the table. There is a really good chance that they could miss a bowl game if Pitt's better, Virginia Tech steps up, even though they lost half of their freaking team to the portal, and I have no faith in Brent Pry right now. Maybe SMU, of course, coming off of last year, they're still gonna be pretty good with Brett Lashley, head coach. This can easily fall apart, so that's why 6-6 is the worst case scenario here. I could have easily gone 5-7. There's a universe too where that could happen too. I'm not going that way. I think 8-4 is reasonable. It meets halfway in between They could be a 10-2 team. They could also be really bad. I think it's well within the win total from FanDuel around 8, so kind of matching it. But I'll be lying to you guys. I'm kind of concerned. I am. Again, we don't talk about off the field drama or like behind the scenes stuff too with like Marvel and Star Wars usually. But I agree with Danny here. It's kind of a factor with leadership stuff, and this concerns me. So hopefully it's not, and hopefully they can, keep this away from the football stuff. But I'll be honest with you guys, I'm a little bit concerned now. Not the health stuff, but just the other things. Again, the girlfriend stuff and his car getting stolen. It's like, that's not leadership quality to me. That just seems like some, I don't know what else. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't evaluate what's going on. But it's just like this doesn't feel good and stuff. Look, I mean, if you're a Miami fan, and I don't know, Coral Gables, Miami, West Palm Beach, like I can understand why you guys are a little bit nervous about how this is going to work. So more power to Mario Cristobal. Look, if they can somehow squeak out a 10-2 record with what's been happening off the field with the quarterback stuff and losing all the talent they lost last year and the leadership stuff, and given what their schedules looks like, especially at the beginning, that'll be pretty impressive. So let's see here. What is next here? Okay, yeah. So here's probably one of the biggest stories outside of the football stuff. And excuse me, had a little burp there. That's what happens whenever you do a show like this, and you have a tendency to burp after you drink. So water. Excuse me about that. But as we merrily roll along, Fantastic Four. So this sort of percolated late last night, and when I went to bed, I didn't hear anything about this because I was watching the Western Conference Finals, and I guess congrats to OKC making the finals again, first time in a while. But enough of basketball on here. But so of course I go to bed, and before you officially go to bed, I check Twitter to make sure nothing's breaking or anything, so I can add it on to the show. I started to hear about, hey, there may be some Fantastic Four news coming out. There may or may not be a screening going on. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can, look more into this tomorrow. But apparently, I go to bed and there's all of a sudden all this news coming out about a public test screening that happened yesterday. And there's been a lot of mixed feelings about this, from what I've heard, and most of this comes from Josh over at Den of Nerds. And he put out a tweet early this morning when I woke up, I saw this, and it sounded like initially what he was hearing was from what the public test screenings said. It didn't really sound that good. And there's some other, the Cryptic HD guy. He even tweeted out a very an ominous tweet saying, look, I'm hearing some stuff. It's like good, it's okay, or whatever. I'm like, that doesn't sound good. I tweeted out earlier. I was like, yeah, it's, it seems like Fantastic Four is still a cursed franchise. And even though there's been some different things have been out there recently or within the past couple of hours, I still feel that way. This does not sound good. And, the fact that Marvel went out of their way to make this public instead of what they typically do, and they did this for Thunderbolts too, where it's usually private. It's usually for families of employees. Maybe you bring in some of the VFX guys to watch it and sort of observe it. This was apparently public, and I think folks random people were just selected to go see this. And it's a common tactic, right? A lot of studios will do this, right? Have internal or external screenings, sort of, a very common PR move, sort of like a focus group type of thing, where it's like bring people in, you sort of, take the temperature of the room, if you will, and see how it vibes with the general public audience. And look, I'm not against that, but from what we have seen with the Marvel pattern here in this decade is that typically when Marvel does test screens internally, that's usually a good sign. They feel confident enough, hey, if we don't have to show this out to the public, we can still keep it internal. We think this is good regardless. But then, as of late, with the Marvels and the freaking Ant-Man movie that came out a couple years ago and Brave New World, we start to hear, oh, they're doing external screenings. They're doing more public stuff. And I think people like me and Josh from Den of Nerds, and actually is he streaming right now? Yeah, I guess he is. Okay, yeah, he's streaming. I thought he wasn't gonna be streaming today, but I guess surprise stream. I guess I'll watch that later. But what is really weird is that with that pattern, people like Josh over at Den of Nerds and people like me, we've started to notice this is kind of an interesting trend here. So every time they've done an internal screening, it's usually good. External screening, that's usually a bad sign. And then yesterday it comes out, it's a public screening. Folks are invited to this outside of employees and family. And of course, you have to sign like the NDA, or else you're going to get fucking screwed with legal stuff. So you can't say anything about it. But unfortunately, some stuff is leaked out, which I'm not going to reveal here. I'm going to wait until more official information comes out, more than just a second. But just the reactions I'm getting, it's like, this doesn't sound good. Like, and again, with the history of the Fantastic Four and their movies, with the two ones early with Fox and the whatever the hell the other one was in 2015, it's kind of been a cursed franchise, and that's where I started to get a little bit nervous. But then Josh over at Net Nerds, and he's streaming right now, so I have to get more context on this in a little bit. But he tweets this out just a little bit ago, saying, "quote, I really like some things I've heard about the Fantastic Four screening. Sounds dope." Okay, so is it more of like the Easter egg stuff, things that they're setting up, or is it just the whole movie itself? Because again, I'm hearing different things about it's mixed. Folks aren't really over the moon about it, and then it's like, here we go again. It's like I don't know. I'll have to watch this stream afterwards when I'm done doing this show, and then the pre-recorded one for next week. I don't know. I'm still kind of nervous for now. And look, there's reason to be given this franchise's history, and it shouldn't have to be like this. The Fantastic Four is Marvel's first family. They should not be. It just boggles the mind how they have continuously screwed up. Like the two other movies from Fox, then you have the one back in the 90s, which was never going to release because they just needed to put something out there to not really lose the rights. And then the movie with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, that one was crappy too. It's just like, this shouldn't be too hard to get this right. It's not that hard. I mean, hell, the freaking Incredibles from Pixar is the best version of the Fantastic Four that we've gotten, and it's not even. It's literally just a knockoff, and this is the actual thing. So, look, I hope I'm totally wrong on this. I'm hoping, once I watch Josh's stream later, hopefully I feel a bit better about it, what he's hearing. Because what I'm hearing from Twitter, it doesn't sound that good, at least from that standpoint. Now, I will say this, that there was chatter, if you will, amongst the internet about this leaked post-credit scene that was, Josh hinted at it earlier in his tweet that, hey, I don't know the exact quote, but it was something like, hey, I heard about the Fantastic Four post-credit scene. It's going to make $1 billion. This movie will, if this is true. Now, there's a lot of conflicting reports about this, like what it actually is. And this is a warning too. You're going to see a lot of weird crap, and this happened too with the Thunderbolts thing. It's like you're going to hear a lot of random shit that is not true. Like, of course, people now have AI and stuff. You can easily doctor things, make them think things real. So just be careful of that. But there's two options as to what this post-credit scene could be. Now, the one option, which I think is more likely, and I think that's what is being hinted at, that it's referencing Doctor Doom and it's tied into Doomsday. And again, there's a lot of conflicting things here. I'm hearing this from this person and hearing another thing from Reddit. Look, we've known for a while that Robert Downey Jr., when he was casted, this is coming from Jeff Snyder on his podcast, I believe, with John Roca, I think this time last year, when he spoiled it. At least he revealed it early before it got announced, that the thinking is that Robert was going to be Doctor Doom in Secret Wars and Doomsday, and he would also make a cameo in the post-credit scene of Fantastic Four, which makes sense, right? Because it's the last big movie before, the last Marvel movie before Doomsday. Of course, we have now with the schedule calendar change, and now it's Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's Sony. But with the official Marvel Disney stuff, this is the last movie. This is it. I guess you have fucking Vision Quest and freaking Wonder Man. Who cares about that? That sounds like garbage anyway. This is the last big thing that Marvel proper has coming out before that movie. So they really need to go big here. I think it's smart to bring in Doctor Doom late. Again, there's a lot of conflicting reports as to what this will look like. If it is true, which I believe this is the best of the two options. The second option, and this could be the more exciting one, which would lead me to believe this would be the more $1 million or $1 billion theory that Josh has, is that this could also, the second option could very much be X-Men, the OG X-Men, because we know from, who was it, the guy who plays Nightcrawler, was it Alan Cumming? We feel a couple weeks ago that he was filming a scene with Pedro Pascal, who plays Reed Richards and is also the voice of Mando and Star Wars, that they were fighting each other. So that led me to believe, after hearing that tweet from Josh, it's either Doctor Doom or has something to do with the X-Men, which would, frankly, get a lot of people to go to the theaters either way, either one. I would imagine, though, because we have seen the X-Men before and it's been teased out a lot, that I would imagine that would get folks to enter the theater. Now, there's other options too. the ones that have been floating around for a while that Josh over at Den Nerds has reported on previously. That I guess I may as well just say it now, right? I mean, it's he did his video. I may as well just say it. The two other post-credit scenes that he's hinted at and he's talked about is one involving the OG Fantastic Four with like Michael Chiklis and who's the other, I forget the other actors and actresses, but it's the one with Chris Evans who's Human Torch, right? So that cast was apparently either they're still in the movie or that was an early draft and they took it out early on. But that was what he was hearing, what Josh was hearing previously, that was the post-credit scene, and that was pretty cool. That it involved them. There was also another post-credit scene that was sort of involving the Council of Reeds, which sort of ties into that. So either that's still the thing and that's what he's referring to, or they completely scrapped that and they're going this direction. And the whole plan all along was to include Doctor Doom or maybe have the X-Men come into play. And maybe it's like, I don't know, I'm just speculating here. Like maybe it shows like a clip from the movie they've shot recently and it shows the Fantastic Four meeting the X-Men and it sort of teases that coming war that's coming with Doomsday. I don't know. I couldn't really, to be honest, I couldn't really tell you which one it is. My thinking, it's probably just Doctor Doom related. But again, we don't know for sure. I don't know who's telling the truth. And it sounds like Josh will eventually do a video on this. He will sort of spill the beans what he's heard. So I'm assuming that's coming out soon. I know he was in New York recently. Recently, it hasn't been. Today's the first time he streamed in a couple of days. So, look, this is again. I'm still worried. Yes, the aspects of the post-credit scene are pretty cool, but again, still, look, I will watch Josh's stream. I'll definitely watch the video he puts out eventually. As of right now, unless my mind changes on this, I'm kind of concerned, and I have certainly right to feel that way given the last 3 other movies of the Fantastic Four I've gone. So, yeah, so some worries, some nervousness, but also some excitement, I guess, for Fantastic Four. And double check my notes here. Yeah, that is it for the main topics. Next, more water, and then we'll get into Q&A, and we'll wrap up the show, and then we'll start my other show, which you guys won't see until next week. It's kind of weird I'm saying that, but yeah. And by the way, next week's lone show is going to be mostly Q&A, so there's a lot of things we'll be answering over there, and it's going to be more of an evergreen show, kind of, although some of it's going to be kind of tied to recently, so I'll make sure to put that disclaimer at the beginning of that show. But I guess we'll wrap up here with some Q&A, rapid fire. First of all, this was sort of breaking before the show got started. Thoughts on Mike Leach finally being eligible for the Hall of Fame? Thank you. So if you don't know, this has been an issue that Josh Payton has famously been the face of. Is at the College Football Hall of Fame, which is in, I believe, is it in Atlanta? At the yeah, it is there. Yeah, I walked by it before. Their criteria for being in the Hall of Fame, it's like you get your photo up on the wall or whatever, and getting all these accolades and legends and stuff. That you have to have like a 60% winning percentage, which is stupid to begin with, right? Like you have coaches in the NFL who have lower winning percentages than that. I mean, NFL is way harder to win, or I guess, well, it depends on who you talk to, because of like everyone's pro players, right? And eventually, a team will eventually have success, whether it's Super Bowl or whatever playoff stuff. But the fact that Mike Leach, when he's done for, not just the fact that he died, and that's that in itself, but even before he passed away, just the stuff he's done, like innovating the offense, right? You wouldn't, the Mike Leach offense, if that hadn't existed, with him learning under Hal Mummy at, I believe, at what, Jorge Valdez State or whatever, with him now learning that offense, the air raid stuff, and more or less making it his own, if Mike Leach didn't do that, you would never have gotten guys like Lincoln Riley and the veer and shoot stuff, like what Baylor was doing in the late 2000s or the late 2000s, early 2010s. Like you would never get that sort of passing attack revolution, right? You would never ever had that. And I think Mike Leach, I think a lot of coaches credit him to sort of creating this, the Lincoln Riley offense and the stuff that Tennessee runs now, and all these, this new sort of revolution in the spread offense. And I think a lot of folks credit Mike Leach for that. And I mean, not just that, just all the programs he's touched, like Washington State having the best seasons they've had, at least when he was there in like 20 years or whatever. Doing what he did at Mississippi State, I'll grant you, it was very brief because he unfortunately passed away. Just what he did there, the best seasons they've had there since the Dan Mullen years, and albeit back when he was there, that wasn't that long ago, but now it really is that long ago. And we did at Texas Tech. getting them to the number 1 or number 2 team in the country. And I remember, I was a youth back then, but watching Michael Crabtree catching the game-winning touchdown against Texas back in 2008. And I remember my dad. I mean, I was younger. He remembers this more than I do. He even tells me to this day, and I get chills whenever I watch that video because he remembers watching that game and with my brother. But yeah, I think he's done. I mean, just think of all the things he's done and all the funny moments he's had, and just whatever. I could go a whole hour about Mike Leach, and but no, I am so happy they've done this. It's about time, and I think it did take guys like Josh Pape, for bringing up this issue, and now this also means guys like Howard Schnellenberger, for example, the guy who basically laid the foundation for like guys like Jamie Johnson and in the future with like Larry Coker and all of them from what he did at Miami, and sort of laying that foundation and getting the thing started down there in Coral Gables. So he should also be eligible too now because they changed the rules. So yeah, good for Mike Leach, and hopefully this will mean other coaches like Howard Schnellenberger should be getting into the Hall of Fame here fairly quickly, I believe. I think Leach obviously, and I think Schellenberger will follow suit as well. Next question here: what's Sam Pittman's future at Arkansas? So we talked about Sam Pittman last week. Well, look, Arkansas is a tough job, right? It's one of those, as Bud Elliott calls it, take the checks, take the losses. Be thankful you're in the SEC. You have the right sticker on your helmet. Even though yes, the fans may not be getting the results they want, but at least you're getting paid a lot of money, right? Fair is fair. Though, grant you, I'll admit that if Arkansas was in, I don't know, the Big 12, it would probably be pretty successful there, I'd imagine. And in fact, that makes more sense than yes, whatever. I get it. Money. I don't know what his future is there. I like him. He seems like a pretty laid-back person. Just the way he carries himself. I think he does care about Arkansas football. I think he does care about the players he's been coaching over the years, and they've had success there, right? They've had a fucking 9-win season there at Arkansas, and that's like the first time in 10 years or whatever they did that back a couple years ago. And was it 2021? Had a 9-win season. Last year wasn't too bad, and of course you bring back Mike Petrino as the OC, and you bring in Taylor Green from Boise State. They're back again, that quarterback head coach combination, and I must be a little bit more positive on Arkansas because I think this year could be pretty good for them. There's opportunities for them to have success. They did have success last year. They beat a top 5 team in Tennessee. They had chances last year if things went the right way. They could have been in the contention for the SEC as well. They were in the mix late in the year before their talent disappointed them or just wasn't holding up to their competition. So. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what happens to Sam Pittman. There's a lot of pressure there to win. Arkansas is a very aggressive program, as you haven't seen from the basketball side of things. They're pretty aggressive and they think highly of themselves, though football is a bit different. So easy answer is I don't know about Sam Pittman. Look, I wish he was to be the coach there. He's someone I'm rooting for, but unfortunately, this is a win and loss business, and it's a money business. So it is what it is, I guess. Last question here, and we'll wrap it up. How does it feel to be at 100? To be at episode 100? It feels really good. It feels freaking good. We finally made it. This show was started around this time last year. At least the idea of it, we didn't start until June, of course. Back then, since we're doing the team record projection segment, we've really had to expedite that first version of the series last year. We're doing three teams a show, and it was really weird. But now, since we've had everything now more spaced out, we are able to do this spaced out a little bit more. We can do at least one team record projection per show. So yeah, it feels pretty good to be at 100. We're not the best show in the world. We're also not the oldest show. We're the newest show. We're still growing. We are at 5 subscribers right now. I think we have more of a following on Twitter than we do on YouTube, which is weird. And hopefully someday we'll get there. And I think one of the things I can give you, and I'm sure I'll probably repeat this on our anniversary show, that one advice I can give to anyone who's starting out is just be willing to grind. That's all I can say. Just be willing to grind. It's long. It's gargling, but as long as you have time to do it, wherever you have a day job, you have to do it in the evening, or you're still looking for a job, you're doing this on the side while you're waiting. Just take time for your time. Just take time out of your day to do it when you can do it. And I get it with real jobs, or at least actual jobs. It's tough to do a show and a job. Someone who is looking for a job right now, an actual job. I'll just kind of, I guess I can tell you guys this now since we're this late in the show. That's what I was referring to earlier with the schedule changing. If I do end up getting a job at some point, which will hopefully happen soon, not to get too personal here, but the schedule may have to change a little bit. We may have to do the show in the evenings. Now, of course, not on the same days as Josh Pate, but we will eventually have to make a schedule change at some point, even though I'd much rather have the show being during the day. But just with real life stuff coming in, we may have to adjust the schedule a little bit, but we can do that. We can make that work. But yeah, it feels really good to be at episode 100. I'm very proud of everything we've accomplished. We've gone this far, and hopefully we'll continue to do this for a long time. And now we're going into, with 1 year almost under our belt, 100 episodes under our belt. Now we're officially at the number for syndication. It feels good. It feels really good. Now, of course, there's missing episodes right on YouTube, because most of our episodes were Spotify exclusive, and there's also other episodes like episode 97 is on YouTube, but it's not on Spotify. So technically, we do have 100 episodes. There's not all together. Some of them were lost for various reasons, or some of them are just not on YouTube because we didn't do YouTube yet. But here we are. So yeah, it feels good, and I feel very accomplished. I'd like to thank you guys, the audience here watching this or on the replay on Spotify, for getting us to this point. So we will be back sort of next week. I'll be pre-recorded. I'll be doing that show here in just a moment. I got to drink a lot of water and use the restroom before that, because the voice is starting to go out. Hopefully it'll survive another hour or so. But yeah, we'll be back next week. One show will be pre-recorded. It'll be an evergreen show. So if any news breaks, it'll have to be covered in the future. We'll just have to do it after. Unless I find a way to do something next week. But more likely, it's just going to be one show. It'll be pre-recorded. You'll either drop it on Wednesday or Tuesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. Probably Thursday, if I'd imagine. But until the next time we do a live show, have a good rest of your week. Have a great next week. There'll be a show, just not be live. So just letting you guys know. But we're not going anywhere. We're taking a mini vacation. It's not ideal, but it is what it is, right? Real life stuff has to interject sometimes, and whether it's like hurricanes or things like that, which, by the way, hurricane season will be starting here on Sunday as we're recording this, which will also be the first day of meteorological summer, for those of you who do follow that calendar. So until the next time we have a live show, I'll let you guys know on Twitter what the plan is, what the schedule will look like. So until then, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of next week. I'll probably say the same thing on the pre-recorded show, but you're getting it now. Until then, take care, and we'll see you guys. I'll let you guys know when we'll see each other again.